My one piece of advice, I think, would be that your journey probably isn't going to look like anyone else's,
Yeah,
and that's absolutely okay. It is, it can be a long journey, it can be a winding journey, it can be a,
frustrating
questionable
one.
one, frustrating,
Yes.
absolutely. It can be a weird one. You can find yourself just questioning so many random things about the entire process. But yeah, I think it's a worthwhile one. Yeah.
Thank you for tuning into Unfiltered Voices. I'm Kelly Nissen, and I'm all about shining a light on the self-publication industry because self-published is never second rate. Liv Lorkin, welcome to Unfiltered Voices.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a great pleasure. So a little bit of an introduction of Liv for people who don't know her. Liv Lorkin is a heart-led children's book author, illustrator, and visual storyteller. Since packing books beneath her bed as a child, she's loved reading, writing, and colouring outside the lines. When not immersed in illustrating, Liv can be found exploring gardens, finishing a good puzzle, and drinking her third cup of tea. Um, Liv, welcome again. We'll get straight into the questions, and I actually want to start with some of the items in your bio because there's a lot in there.
Mhm.
I actually think, oh, I'm sort of curious about that. So, first and foremost, it's the expression heart-led. So,
Mhm.
in my work and what I do, I see more authors than you may think, and a lot of professionals actually describing themselves as heart-led author, heart-led illustrator,
Mhm.
heart-led surgeon, or all that sort of thing. And I've heard probably just as many explanations about what that means for them. So,
Mhm.
for you, when you describe yourself as a heart-led children's book author, what does that mean for you with regard to children's literature?
Yeah, great question. But I just want to make a quick joke. A heart-led open heart surgeon
Yes, yes,
was what I was thinking before when you were talking. I was like, oh, that's a
yeah.
funny one. For me, I describe and use the term heart-led really because I like to follow projects, work, stories, artworks in particular that I
Mm,
feel almost like aligned to or kind of guided to. It's something that I try and put first and foremost. It's not always the case. It's just something that I try and aim for in
mm,
doing most of my work, and that's that it's purpose-driven, thoughtful. There's elements of joy, and that I'm trying to kind of always make sure that it resonates with who I am and where I want to go with my work and my career too. So that's kind of why I use that terminology. And for me, it's always kind of grounds me in that sense of understanding of myself as a person. And I think it
mm.
almost hopefully encapsulates who I am to people that just might read a short bio and be like, what makes me tick in a sense. Yeah.
I do like that take on it as well because I was talking with I can't remember who it was now. It might have been Suzanne Chevet in one of the previous podcast episodes, and she was talking about how a lot of authors chase the commercial because that's what the publishers want,
Mm.
rather than writing what they love and what they're led to write and what makes them, to use an expression an ex-principal of mine used to use, is what makes them bubble inside, what excites them and makes them fizz. You write about or you illustrate what makes you sing, which I think is really lovely, and I think it actually produces better stories. So when you talk about packing books underneath your bed, I instantly thought of the Princess and the Pea, but with books. Having books under my bed is sort of appealing. So what can you just expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see, I still pack books pretty much
Yes.
everywhere I go. There's lots of books stacked behind me in boxes as well. We didn't have a lot of room in the house that I grew up in. It was a multi-generational home. So I shared a room for a number of years, and I don't even remember having a bookshelf until like a certain age. I think that might have been maybe high school. So there were these old suitcases that my nan had who raised me, and I just packed those with books and picture books and every kind of book that I had, and they would be packed underneath the bed, and that I'd have piles of books, the ones that I'd be reading kind of constantly or going back
Yeah.
to. So I do like that imagery of the princess and the pea, but with books instead. I'm the collector of books too. I'm the collector. I kind of get called a bowerbird sometimes with my
Mm,
collections of certain things, but for me, I often kind of see books as like potentially they might just transfer a little bit of knowledge every now and again, even if I'm not reading them constantly. So maybe they might
yes.
have helped me have some good dreams too. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but
No.
underneath the bed was quite a fun tradition for me.
Yeah. It would make a really cool illustration, wouldn't it? And I'm like, if I could draw, but you can,
I know. Well, you've given me an
just
idea because I was just thinking like, oh, I really want to draw that because that would help me explain the imagery of what it was like.
yes, yes. So good. When you've drawn that, I'd like to see it
I will let
because
you
I
know. I will
just love
tag
that
you.
concept. Um, yeah. So being inspired by that love of reading, and actually, I did think of another question while you were speaking there. You talk
Mm.
about collecting books and being a bit of a bowerbird and that sort of thing. How many books do you have on your TBR list?
Oh,
I've lost
like
count with mine,
I
so I shouldn't ask that question of other people.
I think I've got levels of TBR. So I've got the ones that I'm immediately wanting to read, and oftentimes I might have three or four on the go. But I feel like I probably have a never-ending TBR of just books that I've purchased that I'm like, I don't necessarily want to read that immediately, but I know that I want that there for when I do want to read it. So,
Yes.
um, how long's a piece of string, really? Like,
Yeah, I keep adding to mine. I've got like trolleys of books around, so it's just and they move them
mm,
around, so we move them around to vacuum and that sort of thing. But I don't actually have any books under my bed, and I've got quite a high bed, so that's yeah. Anyway, moving on.
mm,
So you are inspired by your love of reading,
mm.
obviously, but then you also talk about puzzles and you love exploring gardens, which can often be a bit of a magical world. Are those places where you get your inspiration?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. Like I love jigsaw puzzles now, but growing up with my grandparents, my grandpa, he loved wooden puzzles and he would
Oh,
often actually make his own puzzles out of like metal, like kind of like coat hangers, but like rods of like
oh
wire. That's
yes.
the word
Yeah.
I'm looking for. It's out in the ether there. But yeah, he'd often make those himself, and we'd have to I'd figure them out and that kind of thing, and we'd get little wooden puzzles. So I kind of love those kind of things that kind of get your brain thinking. And on the other side, I love nature and I love being outside. And for me, I really don't think I would have the same capacity or level for creativity if I wasn't so immersed or intentional about being in nature. I have a very strong relationship with it, and for me, it's just something that I often, nice walk, intentionally go to the garden, go to the beach, that kind of thing. I love being outside and just almost like resting my brain because I
Mm.
can be quite in my head and my work can be quite detailed or focused and very computer based. And I often find just stepping outside and even just seeing the world from a completely different perspective
Mm.
just grounds me back into, oh, that's good. I feel better now.
With your writing, what was it that inspired you to start writing in the first place? Or maybe, I don't know, maybe the illustrating out of those two. Which one came
Mm,
first, and what was your inspiration to actually do something more with it than just
mm.
drawing for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I have always been somewhat creative and crafty. The crafts have kind of really started when I was quite younger, and then I wasn't a very good drawer or very drawn to painting when I was younger. Wasn't really until high school that I started to kind of find myself in that space.
Mm.
I've been illustrating for a number of years, and I really got into digital illustration very early on, kind of when I was in uni, because I didn't want to keep buying art materials and it was becoming quite
Mm.
costly. And when you're you make mistakes and you kind of ruin one piece of watercolor and you add too much water to it, you're like, oh, I need another sheet, and then that adds up. So at the time, I think I had an iPad and I downloaded, I think it was like the original version of Procreate, and
Oh, yes.
really
Yeah.
from there it kind of started in that digital space. And I kind of dabbled because at the same time, while I was studying, I was studying biomedical science, so I was quite in that logical kind of mindset. I was also
Mm.
kind of doing a creative outlet of doing graphic design kind of on the side, freelancing, and
Mm.
illustration just kind of became natural in that sense. It really wasn't until lockdowns and COVID that I had this idea for a picture book, and I thought, oh, I could probably illustrate it, but I really don't
Mm.
know if I could write it. And I sat on that idea for 2 years, and I just kind of got to a point where I was like, the idea won't go away. And I
Mm.
need to kind of potentially allow it some breathing room in the world if I want to see if I can actually make it happen. And then I started to draw the front cover, and really from there, I think I put the front cover up, and then I think I got like, I think I got pre-orders. It was kind of along those lines. And then yeah, immediately I was like, okay, well, now I need to figure out how to make this book. And I illustrate, I see it all in my head like a movie. So I illustrated all of my pages first and then I wrote it. But I knew what I was going to kind of write anyway.
Mm.
So that's how I did my first picture book. And then I subsequently haven't really stopped writing or illustrating since then. So yeah, that's how it all kind of came
It's a
to be.
bit of an addiction, isn't it? I
Yeah.
think once you do one, it's like, yeah, go and do a second one now. And
Yeah.
there is that expectation, I think, from people who've purchased and read your first book. They're like, oh, well, when's your next one coming out? It's like, oh, I hadn't really thought about that. Tell us about your work. So, if we look at your website, you've got children's books, you've got graphic novels. There's middle grade fiction, I think,
Mm-hmm.
there. Yep. Picture books. You've also got coloring books, and you've got a range of other arty sort of products. So, yeah, just tell us about what you do, and in a nutshell, I'm also interested in your visual storytelling um,
Mm.
gigs that you do.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it also kind of started with that first picture book. That was Winter in Ballarat. And
Mm.
unintentionally, I'd been building kind of like a toolkit to almost kind of kickstart me into doing my first books and my subsequent books, because I'd been doing graphic design for, well, now it's 12 years. At that point, it would have been like seven. Um, and I already had relationships with printers. So I kind of started building out almost, as I said, that kind of toolkit, and utilized all of that to, yeah, create Winter in Ballarat. And then, as you said, people ask for more. So I did Christmas because that's my favorite time of year, Christmas in Ballarat. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do the rest of the seasons because I love a complete set of books. So
Yes.
I did all the other seasons of that. And then this ties back into kind of that definition of heart-led. Was I lost my mother. She passed when I was one. And I really wanted, I think, to have just a solid book really focused on grief for children
Hmm.
and really around parental loss and kind of the child navigating through that. So that led me on to creating my middle grade book, which is 33 chapters, I think about 24,000 words.
Hmm.
And there's like a collection of, I think, about 9 or 10 illustrations throughout that as well. So that was quite different to going from
Mm.
picture books to that middle grade novel. And I used a lot of different skill sets in that. I kind of had to figure out how to go from like I'm doing full color to, black and white, kind of spot
Mm.
illustrations. So again, every single book I feel like I've done has been a learning curve. And
Mm.
then I also uh, illustrated, but I didn't write a book for a company in Ballarat, and I also designed that too. So
Mm.
I think once I kind of started to do the first books, other people took notice and was like, "Oh, you're doing this, you're offering this as a service now." So I did that, and then I had the opportunity to kind of collate all of my Ballarat picture books into one to create a coloring book. So
Yes.
that was a really fun project in the sense that I used to read like Dolly and Girlfriend and Clear and all those magazines
Mm.
growing up, and I wanted this book that you could flip over. So for the Christmas time of year in retail, you could have it a Christmas side, and then you flip the book over, and it has just the seasons for the year on
Oh,
the other side.
perfect. Yes.
So there's 50 coloring pages throughout it, and yeah, so that was quite fun. And there's 10 pages from each of the books. And then the most recent book that I put out, so I didn't put any books out last year, took a bit of a hiatus from
Mm.
that, while still working on projects in the background. And worked on a graphic novel about gnomes. And I drew on a lot of the elements that I loved about my Ballarat books in the sense that I loved how niche it was, that it was about Ballarat, and I loved the community response from having a book about an area, and I loved the children being able to see the places that they knew. So
Mm.
in my graphic novel, it took me a little while to kind of figure out how I wanted to almost kind of have small towns and cities that people would recognize throughout it. So I did it in a way that they were all postcards, and there's 100
Mm.
postcards in the book that have names of all the major cities, or pretty much all the major cities, and then all these small towns across Australia on them. So
Wow.
even if children potentially might not live there, they would know or have been through or have heard about these
Mm.
places and towns. So they could identify them and maybe know a little bit more about them. So yeah, and then all the other stuff that goes along with it. I've made enamel pins. I'm wearing my ones today,
Yes.
as well. And
Gorgeous.
yeah, so I kind of utilize all the skills that I've developed over the years to kind of create these collections of work. I see them as like it's the book, and then it's kind of what surrounds them too. Mm,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Just using all of your skill sets in that
mm.
way. The gnome book, like I've seen it on your website, but I wasn't quite sure, and now I'm just going to have to go and buy it. Because I can see actually as a teacher, as an ex-teacher, how useful that would be in the classroom. So your creative process. I'm always interested in people who've got the dual side of things. You've sort of dipped your toes in both pots, as it might be. Is there's something about your creative process that might surprise people? It's a little bit different to what other people might experience.
Yeah, I can only speak from my experiences,
Yeah.
because I'm sure other people do things so differently to what I would do.
Which is what
But
makes this all interesting, right?
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And I love that. So for me, I kind of get almost like sometimes it's like lightning in a bottle with ideas. I get a whole bunch of them all the time. And oftentimes I can tell which ones that I'm passionate about and ones that I think I could probably follow through on or want to follow
Mm.
through on as well. Because there's some ideas that I'm like, oh, that's not for me. So, for example, with the Gnome book, I illustrated the cover first. I illustrated one of the characters. I kind of was getting an idea of them. But for me, it's like I need to visually see what the overall style and look is going to be for me to kind
Mm.
of go from there. So that's the interesting part that I think a lot of people might not do. And I think they probably would leave that to the end, is like once you've kind of locked
Yes.
it all in place. But I'm like, nah,
Mm.
I had no story written. I had the idea of kind of what I wanted it to be like. And then yeah, I kind of just went straight ahead and illustrated that. And I think that's one of the benefits of being an illustrator and a
Yes.
creative and kind of also doing your own like self-publishing in that sense too, is that there are no rules around it. You can do that. And then throughout it, I would always kind of go back and look at the book cover and almost go, okay, is what I'm doing aligning to this story?
Mm.
And is there anything that I could change on the cover that would maybe align with what I'm wanting to create? And I'd always just kind of reflect on it. And for me, it's also like a motivation too, of like, this is the end goal and this is what it will be. So it kept me
Mm.
motivated. I had scraps of paper everywhere of like, this is the story and here's the storyboard. And I'm a bit of a messy person, like creative wise. So
Mm.
nothing is necessarily ordered or structured until I think the end, when it probably makes sense to people. But over
Yep.
here, it's like, it's not making sense to anyone but me. And me
Yes.
explaining that can often be a challenge. So yeah, that's how I do that kind of creative process. And oftentimes I struggle to kind of synthesize exactly what I'm aiming for until it's kind of done.
Yes, yeah. That is interesting. I don't know of anybody else who does their cover first
Mm,
before anything. And I can, as somebody who I have a list of potential titles with nothing attached to them. Um,
mm,
so as a person who does that, I can see the benefit of mapping out that cover
mm,
first. So that you've got that direction because the cover is so important for a book. Like it's the first thing that we see,
mm.
and it should inspire us as as well to sort of wonder what's inside. So yeah, I think you fit the what might surprise people bill very well. So, but it
Yeah.
makes absolute. You're elected to self-publish
Mhm.
your books, as we've just established, and you've got quite a few. So that is, excuse me, that is no cheap deal. Actually, going through that process. Why did you decide to go down a very non-traditional path?
Well, it really was unintentional in a lot of ways. To begin with, the Ballarat books, I didn't even contemplate putting them to a traditional publisher at all because I was like, they're so niche that I didn't
Exactly.
really
Yeah.
think that anyone would probably pick it up. And I wasn't sure how it would go. And I wasn't sure how many books I should print to begin with. I was very
Mm,
much learning every single step along the way of the first book. So that I think kind of set me up. And I already had relationships with like a local Ballarat printer for client work. So
yeah.
for me, I kind of approached them was like, I'm doing this book. What would you need for that? And I made decisions that I think reflecting back on, I probably would have made different decisions now. Like I made them like landscape A4. I'd probably make them square at about 21 centimeters.
Right.
But
Yeah.
hindsight 2020, like they're all now the same size, and it is what it is.
Yes. Yeah.
And I didn't expect anything really major from them. I was like, they're just going to tick away. I was at the time also living in Ballarat. So when I had stockists and they were stocked around town at like Sovereign Hill, the visitor centre, Collins
Mm,
on Lydiard Street, that I could easily just drop them off as well. So for me,
yeah.
there wasn't a barrier to distribution either. So all of those things I think had lined up perfectly for me to self-publish.
Mm,
And I could put the book together from beginning to end. And I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to go with that. And then I did, the rest of them and the Christmas one too, and that went quite well. It wasn't really until I got to Sage that I was like, I'm not sure. I attempted to get Sage through a traditional like publisher because
mm,
it was niche, but it wasn't so niche about a specific town. And I kind of was reaching points of like lots of like waiting to kind of hear back. And that is really just the traditional side of things that it
it's
is.
part and parcel of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say I'm the most patient person in that sense. I really wanted to finish the manuscript and I kind of wanted to move forward with it. And I felt like I was kind of stalling all these kind of steps of
Mm,
the way. And I kind of got to a point where I was like, you know what, why don't I just give it a go and see what I can do? And yeah, I
mm,
finished that one and then I figured out how like I would regularly go to stores and look at different books and had a collection of books that I would check out of where are they getting their books printed?
yes.
And I followed that path. I was like, I'm going to get them printed in Australia. And same thing with the Gnome book. Again, I don't think a traditional publisher probably would have wanted to see the work until it was done, and I wasn't going to get the work done until it needed to be done. So,
Yes.
it just kind of worked out that way.
It's huge trial and error. But as an author and an illustrator, your experience running your business, like self-publishing your work, you would have a whole like laundry list of advice to offer, I imagine. What's one, and you did mention about, learning curve and trial and error and that sort of thing. But what's one piece of advice that you wish you'd received right at the start of your journey? So something that you've learned along the way, either the hard way or not, and would now offer up to others who are just starting out and looking to follow in your footsteps, as it were.
It's funny that you say that. My one piece of advice, I think, would be that your journey probably isn't going to look like anyone else's,
Yeah.
and that's absolutely okay. It is, it can be a long journey, it can be a winding journey, it can be
Mm,
a,
frustrating
questionable
one.
one, frustrating,
Yes.
absolutely. It can be a weird one. You can find yourself just questioning so many random things about the entire process. But yeah, I think it's a worthwhile one. And I think there's something so amazing about having all of your work actually into something tangible, like a book. And
Mm,
even if that is at the end of the day a book for yourself and your family, I think that's an amazing experience and journey to go on.
yeah.
I feel like in many ways I've kind of, you know, intentionally and unintentionally stumbled into this kind of career, and I love so many elements of it. And I often think of it as like a calling in that sense. Like it's a niggling that won't go away. And I don't think at this point I can't see myself ever wanting to stop writing and illustrating. And I think that if you're feeling that way, that's happening for a reason. And whether
Yes.
that's like it's one book, it's one poem, it's creating a blog, it's just creativity and needs to be expressed in whatever capacity it can be. And for me, that's like books, but also for me, that's like enamel pins. And it's
Yes.
creating these activations or experiences that I've had the opportunity to as well. So it isn't just one thing. It kind of snowballs into something else. And you never know
Mm,
once you try something, what will happen from it. And I
yeah.
use this example quite often was that when I did my Christmas book, the two amazing things happened from it was that the first one was a year afterwards, the city of Ballarat, they have an amazing Christmas in Ballarat festival, and the
Mm.
entire town kind of gets activated, and it looks gorgeous. And they have these giant bows on their like heritage lampposts, and it's great.
Yes.
We did a condensed version, so I did murals around Ballarat, which were based on my picture book, and they told a
Mm.
condensed version of Christmas in Ballarat, and then I hid clues in the murals that kids could answer questions to, and then they
Oh,
entered in to win a
wow.
hamper. I would have zero clue as I was writing that book that that opportunity would happen from it, like
Yeah.
absolutely zero idea. And the second one that is one of my absolute favorites is that a couple of years ago, the NICU unit at Grampians Health, or was previously at the time Ballarat Health Services, their hospital there,
Mm.
they transformed. So Jess from the hospital, she's one of the nurses, she approached me and said, "Would you, be okay if we used your book at the unit?" And I was like, "Absolutely." And they
Yeah.
transformed and made posters and these beautiful artworks and painted their kind of entire NICU into Christmas in
Wow.
Ballarat. And they did a phenomenal job of it. And I was so honored for that too. And I donate a set of Christmas in Ballarat books every year to the NICU unit as well.
Yeah.
Because if families are there over that time, they're clearly there for a reason. And it's nice to just
Yeah.
have something that's comforting for them. So
Yeah.
like you never know when you're creating something what might happen from it as well. And if
Yes.
it's not, even if at the end of the day it's a book, but it might lead you on to a new passion or something
Mm.
else. Like I think
Yeah.
that that's really important to give it a go.
Yeah. Be open to those opportunities, I think. I always say that when you're desperately looking for something, it's always really hard to find and it never presents itself. But the minute you stop looking and
Mm,
just go, okay, whatever, I'm just now going to focus on this, that little thing you were looking for presents itself. So
yeah.
I think if you're just open to, to letting things come to you, um,
Mm,
that can often, present itself in really unexpected and amazing ways. That must
mm,
have been absolutely like, I don't know, heartwarming and a bit of a tearjerker there when, when they wanted to, the hospital
yeah.
wanted to create that. It's like, that's my work that, that's up there.
It's
So
it's absolutely a career
it's
highlight
really
for me.
special.
Like it's so, yeah, as you said, it's so special. It's so lovely.
Yeah.
And I could never have dreamt of that opportunity or for them to do that. And I often find too that the works that you pour so much love and have so much fun doing as well.
Mm.
I created the book when it was like mid-year and it wasn't Christmas, and obviously I released it for Christmas. But my husband, I was struggling with kind of getting into the spirit. He surprised me by decorating and putting up our Christmas tree and putting out Christmas ornaments to kind of get
Oh,
me in the spirit of Christmas. So my lounge
uh,
room while I was creating it was that way, and I had so much fun creating it. And I will often find that the work that people resonate the most with are the works or the pieces or the writing or the illustrating that I've enjoyed the most
oh
creating.
yes. Yep.
And then I often find sometimes when people might come to me, and it doesn't happen often, but it's happened a couple of times where people might come and often see work in particular that I've really enjoyed and they go, we want to do something quite similar. But then they might box it down a bit and then change it a bit more. And then it becomes really restrictive. And I often
Yes.
find
Yeah.
that they don't give it enough life or freedom to be what it
Mm.
needs to be. And I often find that a little bit challenging. That's one of the challenging
Yes.
parts. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's almost, I don't know, human nature amongst creatives that you want to, and you've got that capacity to fully express yourself, but you're very much hemmed in by expectation and
Mm.
not wanting to be seen to have gone too far. And I think it takes a certain amount of courage to put yourself out there and follow what you are absolutely loving rather than, distilling it down into something that's manageable. My next question was about attitude, but just hearing how much support you had from Ballarat Council, the community in Ballarat. And the next question might sound a bit odd, but I'm interested in your take. So, talking about the attitude across the board to authors and creatives who self-publish, is there a message that you'd like to send out to readers or the gatekeepers, and there are many gatekeepers, just about people who do decide to go down that path?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had both. I haven't had real extremes, but I've had judgment. I've had experiences along those lines when you say you're a self-publisher, and you can kind of tell when the attitude shifts.
Oh
Because
yes.
sometimes you're like, I should have my books with me 24/7 so I can like show you how much I've poured into this
Mm,
piece of work. And that is
yes.
absolutely not to say at all that traditional haven't. They've poured in a significant amount of work and labor, but there's also been a lot more other people involved in that entire
Mm,
process. So like they're two sides of the same coin in a lot of ways, and I do get why people might have judgment around it. Absolutely, everyone's entitled to their own opinion,
mm.
but oftentimes I've found, and I regularly say this to people too, is that the only people that I've found that really care who's published my books has been the people that are in the industry or
Yes.
authors or illustrators in the kidlit space anyway.
Mm,
No one else has really cared. When I put out my Ballarat books, no one was like, Liv, who's this published through? They just wanted to buy the book because it was sweet. It was
yeah.
intended for the local community. It was to get kids and parents
Mm,
and teachers and tourists excited about the town, and that was really the main intention for it too. And
mm.
they have winter for like what feels like 6 months of the year, and
Yes.
that was like my first one that I wanted to make was to get kids kind of excited about the seasons as well and have
Mm,
a bit of an understanding. So really, like I do get it, but I've no one has ever really cared that hasn't had, skin in the game, I would say.
mm. Yes, I think that's where a lot of the judgment is, actually.
Yeah. And
And when we talk about skin in the game, we're talking about like everybody from publishers to authors, I think
mm,
sometimes can be the worst. Um, and book reviewers and podcasters, for example,
yeah.
booksellers, all that sort of things. So I think everything we can do to sort of chip away at that attitude and go, you know what? You tell me that you can tell the difference
Mm,
between say what you've done and what somebody who's published traditionally has done. Like I said, there's the same amount of work. and the quality is the same, sometimes if not better, I think. So keep doing what you're doing, but it doesn't matter how you decide to publish, you still need a thick skin. So,
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
So, we're nearing the end. A quirky question for you. If a gnome delivered you tree mail tomorrow, focusing on the theme of your graphic novel there, what would you hope it would say?
Oh, I love this question so much. I feel like, so first off, the postcards all have locations on them. So I would say they're kind of, I don't know, maybe like traveling around, maybe like in Cairns or something like that. They're on the
Yeah.
beach. That's kind of where they start, really on the beach in the story. So I think it'd be somewhere, hot and tropical that they're sending their postcard from. I
Mm,
think I'd like it to say that they love the book first and foremost, that they love
yes.
their portrayal of themselves. I think that they would be maybe inviting me on a particular adventure or storyline, maybe going up to wherever they are for like a Christmas feast, and
Yes.
maybe they'd also include like a little treat. So, with a cute little stamp that's got a little mushroom on it. So that's
Yes.
kind of what I think they would send to me. I think it'd be really cute. I think it would be maybe poorly written.
Yes.
Maybe like it would be, yeah, it would be maybe a little bit difficult to read.
Bit of a scroll. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because they're gnomes. Like they're busy doing other amazing magical things. They don't have
Yes.
all the time in the world to write. So that's why it's postcards. It's short, it's sweet, and it's to the point.
Yes, absolutely. The joy of receiving a postcard in the mail. It's something I sort of miss actually. So I love that you've written about like with that theme as well.
Mm,
And again, with teaching with schools, that might spark a bit of a, pen pal postcard tradition as well, which would be lovely, wouldn't it? Be nice,
mhm.
have your book in schools and have students actually send postcards to you telling you how much they love your book and what they love about it.
I love that idea. I have
There
some
you go.
ideas for like a snail mail club, but I'm just kind of brewing on in the background of like how that might look. Yeah.
Yes, it's just something really special that's, about opening a letter or a postcard or something that, it's
Mm.
not just clicking a button and opening an email. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
again, time poor, I don't know, that sort of thing, inclination. So, Liv, I've loved talking to you. Can you let all of us know, please, where people can find you, where they
Mhm.
can find and purchase your books, how they can book you for school visits and for author talks,
Mhm.
and your products, your enamel pins and everything as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on social media. That's kind of where you get my up-to-date and live shenanigans that I'm doing. So I'm at Liv Lorkin on Instagram and TikTok, and then I'm Liv Lorkin Designs on Facebook. And then
Perfect.
livlorkin.com is my website. I have info on there for like school visits. You just pop your email in and you get sent my little PDF school visit guide. And then all my
Nice.
products and my books are on my website. My book, Sage and the Journey of Grief, is available online and in retail stores. And then my gnome book is launched and out on my website. It will
Okay.
be online and in stores and stuff very, very soon. Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Awesome, Liz. Thank you so much. Keep us posted on what you're up to next, and that illustration of the book bed. I'll be
Oh,
looking
yes, I
forward to that.
love that concept idea. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Liv.
Thank you.